Why, hello there, endurance nerds. Welcome to my boogery command center with my booger disease that I got from my boogery baby nephew who gave me lots and lots of booger kisses last week. I don't even care. I love his booger kisses because he's cute. Kind of gross, though. You guys are going to have to deal with my sniffling and snotting and all that jazz during the course of this video. I have no regrets, as long as it stays in my head. Just sit here with my puffs and talk to you fine folks. If any of you have ever had children in daycare, you'll know that they bring home every godforsaken seasonal illness imaginable. It's worth it, but man, is it gross. This kid is going to have the immune system of an ox by the time he's 2 years old. But anyway, we're here to talk about a fun-filled subject about my favorite two platforms, TrainerRoad and Zwift. And I want to talk about this week's announcement about the API integration between these two. I want to give a bit of a primer to folks out there as to what they can expect out of this integration, what people may have been hoping for in terms of an integration, and whether or not I think that that might come to fruition anyway. I'm going to talk about my own personal opinion and whether or not I see a use case for me in terms of the integration, and obviously who this is going to be helpful for. Now, I have been on both of these platforms for north of a decade. Yes, it's a very long time. I'm old. Get over it. I've been on TrainerRoad since 2012, and I've been on Zwift since 2015. So I have a good deal of expertise and experience in these two platforms, and I've seen them both evolve tremendously over the years. Now, truth be told, and this might come as a surprise given its front-facing facade, I would actually say that TrainerRoad has evolved much more than Zwift in terms of the core product. TrainerRoad started as kind of fixed training plans with some flexibility with the workouts that were well designed by coaches and professionals in the industry, but a lot of them were just variations on a theme based on volume and expertise in training, and you can kind of pick the training plan that was right for you, but it was still somewhat of a one-size-fits-all. Today, it's much different. It's built on those underpinnings, but has really integrated their strength in terms of data and being able to use machine learning and AI to make bespoke training plans for their athletes. Every training plan at this point ends up being individualized. You may pick that core, but now what TrainerRoad does is it works backwards from either your peak fitness or your event. It takes the amount of time that you have to train. It takes your experience as a rider. It takes up what type of event that you're looking to do. And it looks at your historical data, your training zones, so your different energy systems, where you stack up in terms of your capability within those zones, stacks that up against your FTP. And then it also uses the data from thousands of other users to kind of run its own internal experiments as to what happens when maybe similarly trained athletes undergo certain amounts of load, and just stacks that together to create as close as possible to having an individual coach without paying for a coach. In fact, in some ways, limited ways, it will be better than having a coach because it can extrapolate and understand data sets in ways that a human being cannot. You pair up TrainerRoad with the human element or with the coach, and you really have one hell of a powerhouse for training. Zwift, on the other hand, the core experience has not fundamentally changed. At least not in an earth-shattering way. Right? You got your visuals, you've got your community function, you've got races and group rides, and they've continued to kind of add around that shell. So we've got more routes than we've ever had. Worlds, I think they've worked on adding more detail, albeit with a very old game engine. At least they've tried to extract as much as they can to give value to people running in like 1440 or 4K. They've done a lot more with proper race categorization and scoring matrices. They continue to add in new kind of reward functions and campaigns to use, route badges, accomplishment badges, all sorts of fun stuff. Things that will keep Zwift novel and compelling so that people who are experienced on the platform have a reason to continue coming back time and time again. Now, the reason I point this out is to make sure that it's clear that these two programs, they're not competing with one another. They're not in competition. In fact, the linking of these two platforms is extremely intuitive and natural because TrainerRoad is looking to seek out those who are looking for the superlative training experience, looking for science-based training and things that are individualized to them. Zwift is looking for people who want the community and the visuals. Now, in terms of those two demographics, there is a good amount of overlap. I find myself right in the center of that Venn diagram. But in terms of its core user base, these two programs aren't seeking out the same person. In fact, I would say the only way in which these two companies compete is in terms of those people who'd really like to have both, but only have the budget for one or the other. And I think that that's fair, that that's just going to happen. These two programs together is a little bit over $400. That's not chump change for a lot of people. So if they're not going to be able to extract all the value or they simply can't afford it, they're going to pick the one that they feel that they're going to get the most value out of. Some people do TrainerRoad and maybe find some other means of the visuals, whether you're using MyWhoosh or something else or just watching a movie. And some people are going to pick Zwift and maybe just settle for Zwift's training plans, maybe try to find something for free, build something themselves, what have you. But all other things being equal, these two programs together make one hell of a pairing. But here's the rub. It's a faff. It's a pain in the ass. I have a video that's still relevant to this day. It might be 4 or 5 years old now on how to run TrainerRoad and Zwift on a PC at the same time. That requires the upfront investment to deal with at least one, if not two ANT Plus dongles, being able to connect to both platforms. You used to have to do it in a particular order and connect through some via Bluetooth, some via ANT Plus. Newer sensors are starting to come with 2 Bluetooth transmitters, understanding these limitations, but it's a pain in the butt. Now, once you get it set up, and if you have a dedicated training setup, it's pretty easy now. Every time that you get on, you open 2 platforms. It takes a minute to load each of them, and then it will automatically connect to its known and memorized connections. But it's a pain. And for people who are not super technologically savvy, or people who don't have the luxury of a dedicated training space, that might not be in the cards. This integration for those people may not have a ton of value. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when I talk about my own personal experience. But many of you are using Zwift and or TrainerRoad on mobile devices or Apple TV. Now, in that regard, running these 2 programs together is an unmitigated pain in the ass. You have to run on 2 different devices, full stop. There really is no way around it. Yes, on a tablet, you could run TrainerRoad in the background and put Zwift on the front end, but then you can't see what's going on with TrainerRoad. And that kind of takes away the fidelity and the effectiveness of running those workouts and seeing what's coming up next. And I think a lot of folks are out there maybe running Apple TV, have Zwift up on their big screen, and then they're using a tablet or using their phone to use TrainerRoad. You've got to make sure another device is charged, you're tying up another device, and so on and so forth. It's not that big of a deal when you really think about it in the grand scheme of things, but it does add friction. And anybody who spent an appreciable amount of time training knows that friction is the demise of the training plan. All it takes is a long workday, low motivation, boogery kids, whatever it might be, to smuggle in that invitation to skip that workout. And something as simple as 5 to 10 minutes to hook up these 2 platforms just to get started on your ride might be enough to say, fuck it, I'm doing it tomorrow. People do that almost every single day. It doesn't take much friction whatsoever. So this integration, I think, will ameliorate a lot of that headache for people, especially if you're on mobile or an Apple TV. So we'll kind of take a look inside the programs here. I'll just give you a high-level overview. This is not going to be a tutorial, but what you can expect to see getting things set up and as you start to use it. And you can make a more informed decision as to whether or not the integration is helpful to you in your utilization of the platforms, or maybe you're looking at adding one on top of the other one, and whether or not you think this integration will be helpful in making that decision. So we'll dive right over. We'll start with the setup here. The setup is super easy. I'm not going to walk through the whole process, but it took me less than 60 seconds to do it. You literally go into the TrainerRoad connections, and you'll find now added to like Garmin, Wahoo, and Hammerhead, they've got an integration here for Zwift. You click on the connection, you log in with your Zwift credentials, you authorize the connection, and you're really off to the races. Now, when it comes to the functional utilization, TrainerRoad pushes workouts into Zwift in this very similar way that Training Peaks always has, and that we've seen recently in other programs like Exert and so on that are using the API that Zwift opened up to these companies back in like April or May of last year. So you have one of 2 pathways. The first one, which I think is going to be the most common for people using TrainerRoad, is if you have a training plan loaded into your system here. What it's going to do is it's going to pull from your calendar, and it's going to push that workout over into Zwift, and that's going to show up right front row center when you open up Zwift in the For You area. So you can see this workout here is the same workout that I have on the calendar. And the API integration is quick. There's no delays. I did not have a workout on for yesterday. I added one in just to test this out. And then I opened up Zwift. So within 2 minutes of getting it loaded and getting onto the screen, and it was already sitting here waiting for me. And that's super critical to know that it's going to be pretty much instantaneous, because for those of you who have worked in TrainerRoad before, you'll know that there's the adaptive training function where I don't have it here right now, but it will tell me that I have adaptations available, and it will invite me to take a look at those adaptations and review them and to see whether or not I want to accept them. So I might have an adaptation for today's workout. It might decide that it wants to push me into a stretch workout or maybe pull back the intensity a little bit. And if I choose to accept it, I don't want this old version of the workout sitting over in Zwift. Now, therein lies the limitation that we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But all other things being equal, if you go and you make that adaptation, it will pretty instantly push over to Zwift. Now, if you don't have a training plan, what TrainerRoad will utilize is this Train Now function. So Train Now is intended for people who are not currently on a training plan. And that could come from maybe just being a bit of an off season or a break. Maybe you're just trying to maintain some fitness, what have you. And what that's going to do is going to look at your training history, and it's going to recommend a workout to you and push it over to Zwift into that same area and give you an option for something to do. Do you have to do that workout? Absolutely not. But maybe you've pushed a lot of load over the course of the weekend. What it's more likely to recommend for you is something like maybe a 1-hour endurance ride. Again, there's going to be some limitations adaptations here that I'll talk about here momentarily, but I think it's kind of neat that it's going to provide some sort of offering without going into TrainerRoad and taking a Train Now workout and adding it to the calendar. It's going to be a more passive function, which I think will add a lot of value for people who are just trying to throw their leg over the bike and I just want to do some work. I've got an hour. Where's my ride? When you get into the workout, it's going to be very familiar. If you've ever done a Zwift workout, it opens the information here. It does pull over the description, which I think is kind of neat. The formatting is not as clean as it would be for TrainerRoad because it uses a different formatting, but everything's there. It's legible. It's got your overview here. It's got your graph down below. And then if you hit Start Ride, you'll pick whatever course that you're looking for, and then you load into the workout. Now, there's nothing different about this workout, except at the very end here. You're going to see your list of intervals here on the left-hand side. Your HUD is unchanged, but the distinction when you're doing a workout with TrainerRoad is at the end, you're going to be faced with a survey. So if you've ever used TrainerRoad, you're going to get a survey at the end that's going to have you evaluate how the workout felt from very easy to very difficult, a 1 to 10 scale. And what it's using that for is for your progression levels. So we'll take an example of a 3 by 20 minutes at sweet spot workout. You may do that workout and you are reaching for every last pedal stroke of those 3 intervals. Now, maybe you got through and you met the power. You didn't fail those intervals, but you barely got through it and you rated that an 8 or 9 out of 10. What TrainerRoad is going to do with that is it's going to incorporate it into your progression levels and make a determination that you're probably not ready for a progressive overload version of that workout when it comes up next week. So it might give you the same type of workout or something very similar so that you're going to kind of hover around, that 20 minutes, you're barely making it through that 20 minutes at sweet spot. Let's hold the power and the duration pretty fixed and let's wait till you're a little bit more comfortable and then we can start to progressively overload it later. So it's constantly doing those surveys to keep touch points. Sometimes it just comes from being on a bad day. So one survey is not going to ruin your whole plan, but it's constantly adjusting. That's why you're getting those adaptations, and it's understanding both your performance to the prescribed power plus your more subjective feedback to determine whether or not you're ready to overload your plan. That's really key in terms of individualizing it. And I think it's really awesome that they were able to feed that into Zwift, because if not, you'd have to go back into TrainerRoad after the workout is over to complete the survey. And that's more friction and more pain in the ass that we don't want to add. So all in all, for those people who are on those mobile and Apple TV platforms, I think this is going to be a breath of fresh air. You're going to be able to jump on the platform. Your workout's going to be waiting for you. You're going to complete it. You're going to finish your survey, and you're probably not going to have to touch TrainerRoad in a lot of cases. I wouldn't recommend not going into TrainerRoad for the reasons I'm going to outline here in a second, but it really does make it very easy for you to complete the workouts that you have on your TrainerRoad plan or through Train Now. But I talked about the caveats and the limitations. And for me, personally, who is running this on PC, who already has the workflow in place, I have tried the integration. I think it worked perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with it. But for my personal preferences and use cases, I am not likely to use it again. I think the limited cases where I might use it is if I'm traveling and I want to bring my pedals and my tablet with me. I don't have to use my phone to do TrainerRoad. I can just do Zwift on the tablet and I could do something on like a Peloton bike or something like that. But that's going to be really limited. In terms of my daily driver and using this at home, I'm really never going to use this again. And let's talk about why. We'll jump back into TrainerRoad over here. So there's a few things to consider. We are already on the Train Now portion, so I'm going to talk about that first. Here in Train Now, I get 3 options. Now, admittedly, I haven't used the Train Now push to Zwift, so I'm not entirely sure if it would push all 3 of these workouts over to Zwift or if it's just going to pick the one recommended. I'm not sure if that's the case. If I can get that answer, I will put that down in the description or comment down below. But what you don't have in Zwift is this. And I think this is critical, this filter for time. So it's going to default to 60 minutes. And I think 60 minutes is a good sweet spot for a lot of people. But maybe you're trying to do something on a weekend and you've got 2 hours or you've got an hour and a half. I can come down and pick this. And what's going to happen is Train Now is going to repopulate. Going to look at my training history, and it's going to give me a recommendation. So in this case, for a really long workout, it's not going to give me a climbing or an attacking workout, and it's only going to give me an endurance workout. I think that's appropriate. If I bring things down to 75 minutes, it's probably going to give me one for each category. See, I've got a climbing workout, I've got an attacking workout, and I've got an endurance workout. I'm not going to have this time function here. There's a limitation there for Train Now and porting that over. In much the same way, if you go into your calendar, you're going to be limited by your diligence of getting in the platform before you're doing your workout. Now, it's not a huge deal that maybe during a lunch break or sitting on the toilet, you open up your phone and you take a look at your training plan for the day, and you can make sure that you accept any adaptations. I don't think that's a big deal. I personally just wait till the last minute, and when I get on the bike, I might take a glance at the beginning of the week, but I'm not in TrainerRoad 47 times a day looking at what I have on deck. But where I think there might be some repeated kind of value of being in TrainerRoad here is, I can't tell you how many occasions I've had to run late at work. I've had an appointment. I had something come up. I have a 2-hour workout on for today. I don't have 2 hours, for example. Maybe I only have 90 minutes. So I can come in here, I can go into the alternates, and it will give me different options for different time horizons. So I can select 90 minutes here, and it's going to give me a similarly structured workout that meets the same objectives on the shorter time horizon. I might even say that I'm feeling fresh, and instead of doing the productive workout, I want to do a stretch workout. I think I've got the legs to do it today. I'm going to fuel up well. I've got a lot of stretch workouts that are available, and I can actually select any of these, and I can go ahead and replace the workout. Now, you can do that in real time and have it push over to Zwift. In my case, I've got TrainerRoad open anyway. I'm not going to close it. It's here. I'm going to run it. And you might be thinking, oh, well, what about the strain on your computer? Even if I didn't have a very capable computer, there are two other things that I prefer on TrainerRoad to Zwift that I'm not going to trade off while I'm continuing to run PC. The first of those things is the way that TrainerRoad manages erg mode. TrainerRoad has actually gone through the effort of understanding the resistance curve and any latency for every single trainer on the market, right? The trainer has a signal attached to it. They get to learn and model those different trainers. So let's say we've got a trainer with a known, let's say 2-second delay to drive resistance from your program to the trainer. TrainerRoad is going to integrate that, and it's going to adjust the timing for when it sends those signals for the brake to engage or disengage, so that your step changes for power are going to be aligned as expected with those step changes. Zwift does not do that as well, if really at all. TrainerRoad also manages the transitions a little bit more smoothly. So you get a little bit more of a slope in that 2 seconds preceding that step change, so that doesn't feel as drastic as it does on Zwift. Zwift is not terrible, but it's really not great at a lot of those changes, especially if they're a little bit more drastic. I think TrainerRoad manages them a little bit better, and it gives that opportunity for the gear to kind of catch and the brake to engage in a more intuitive way. This is really noticeable for those of you who have the larger flywheels. So if you're running a Saris trainer, something like even a Wahoo kicker, even I think the Tax, TrainerRoad really does manage those trainers a lot better. The last thing is the spiral of death, which happens as you're starting to struggle, maybe through those harder intervals, your cadence starts to drop, and it's going to start to bog down your trainer, and you kind of end up in this infinite cycle when you're on Zwift, and then you kind of have to reset or maybe turn off erg to get yourself back on top of the gear. TrainerRoad actually intelligently applies and disengages the brake so that you can get back on top of the gear from within the interval. Maybe if you've lost a little bit of focus, and you just kind of get up out of the saddle for a second, it will release the brake so that you can get back on top of the gear, and then it will re-engage. It's not drastic. It feels really natural, but they do a very good job with it. That's been their bread and butter for years. They're not working on visuals. They're working on making sure that the experience doing workouts is phenomenal, and they've done a great job with it. And I notice there is an appreciable difference to me, and I'm not going to trade that off while I'm running on PC for the Zwift experience. The other thing I would be leaving on the table is the visuals. So if we open up this workout here, I'll just take today's workout. We'll go ahead and load that up. Oh, I'm going to give it a really big smiley face today. And then I'm going to shrink this down. So they've got this design for the overlay. You can kind of move this around a little bit if you want to. But now I've got Zwift in the background. I can resize this window if I see fit. And you can see that I have the entire workout at a glance here. I like this. I like being able to see more clearly and visually than trying to have to read it and do the math. I can very easily discern where I am in the workout in this holistic graph. I also, if I kind of start the workout here, it says I have no peripherals connected. I've got my HUD here. That's going to tell me all my current state statistics, the same as above, so it's kind of redundant here. But I also have the profile for kind of the current intervals. As I move through here, I'll be able to see these transitions. I also have some opportunities here to maybe add to the warm-up, into the cool down. I like all these controls, and I like being able to see things more graphically. Some of that might be habitual and something that I've just acclimated to over the course of years of being able to have this available, but I actually don't think it's uncommon for people not to want to read text and do math in their head versus I can very visually see I'm about halfway through the workout. I can see how far I've progressed in here. When you're bleeding from your eyes doing a tougher workout, being able to see things more simply and visually, I think is going to be better than very cluttered and distracting layout here. You know, I'd love to see Zwift add that kind of graphing option to their own workout mode sometime in the future, but I'm not really willing to let that go in my own personal use case to just let Zwift manage the workouts. I have the luxury of a dedicated setup. I have the luxury of using a PC for my setup. If I were in a different position, if I had gone in on Apple TV and I was habituated to using two different devices, I might have a different opinion. I might be willing to make those trade-offs, but I don't need to. So I'm going to continue to use TrainerRoad and Zwift as I always have. Now, let's talk about what I think a lot of people expected. I think there's going to be a good subset of you who thought that this news was somewhat underwhelming, especially in the throes of some rumors that came to the fore a few years ago about some talks between Nate from TrainerRoad and the folks at Zwift. And I think what people were really hoping for was that somehow we'd integrate the best of these two worlds. And it would probably be housed in Zwift, where people could open up Zwift, and under the training module, you'd have to pay for it, but you can go in and get all the fit, form, and function of the TrainerRoad capabilities. And people were really expecting this. They were waiting for this to show up. They really thought there was going to be some kind of merger or acquisition, or at least some strong partnership between the two. And with that, they were thinking, well, maybe there'd be some bundling as well. So we can leverage some of the synergy there, and maybe we'll get a little bit of a discount if we're currently paying for the two subscriptions. To be honest with you, I never thought that was going to happen. Maybe there would have been some kind of merger, but I never thought these two programs would become one. And in large part because of the limitations I see in Zwift. Zwift does not have the engine, or I think the resourcing horsepower to do what's necessary to integrate the back end of TrainerRoad into Zwift. The front end of TrainerRoad is just on Chromium. It's actually nothing that difficult. Simulating the workout mode is the easy part. Putting the training plans in Zwift is the easy part. Leveraging the data handling and computation that's happening on the TrainerRoad side and somehow surfacing that in Zwift, and then reintegrating Zwift data back into TrainerRoad without these interconnected pieces. I'm not going to tell you I'm some kind of software developer or expert in this domain, but I don't think that that is a light lift by any stretch of the imagination. Zwift is locked into a very proprietary framework. It's beyond aging at this point. It limits them from a lot of things that people would like to see them do. And without a wholesale facelift for Zwift and moving into a completely new game engine, I don't think that the ROI is there to try to integrate TrainerRoad into Zwift. You'll definitely see some benefit, but are you going to draw enough new subscribers and additional revenue for both platforms by trying to integrate them into one? And my suspicion is no. And if that ever was in conversation, my guess is that it was deemed not viable. I'm not trying to dash people's hopes and dreams here. I really don't want anybody holding their breath thinking that's ever going to happen, because I think it's extremely unlikely. Unless Zwift is building Zwift 2.0 in the background and it's going to really move into the next generation when it comes to their software and their agility to take on other features. I think these two will always remain separate, which is kind of a bummer for people who are looking for a little bit of a discount. $405, I think it is, for both subscriptions is not cheap, but I want people to have a healthy expectation as to what we can see between these two platforms. Now, for those of you who are currently using both, I hope this opens up some more options for you. For those of you who have been curious about adding the other, let's say you're in the Zwift camp and you're thinking about adding in TrainerRoad, maybe you're running Zwift on Apple TV. Does this integration make it easier and more worthwhile to run TrainerRoad? I would say yes. I would say that if you're willing to maybe at some point during the day or during the course of the week to jump on your phone and just make sure that your adaptations are shored up and make any adjustments to your plan, I think that's going to be a great experience for you. You're going to get more or less the best of both worlds without a whole ton of friction, right? You can get on the mobile app anytime you want, or you can do that on your computer. And as long as you do a little bit of planning and forethought attached to your training, I think you're going to be in good shape. If you have TrainerRoad and you're thinking about adding Zwift and cost is not a factor for you, I think it might be worth it as well. Now, you might have a few more trade-offs going from TrainerRoad to Zwift. As I mentioned, you're going to have the visual element that you might be accustomed to that you could be losing, and you could be dealing with the trainer feel that you're going to lose by moving over to Zwift. Do I think pairing up the two programs together is still worth it? Yes. If you had to make that trade-off, if you can't run it on a PC, I think that Zwift is an awesome platform. I would recommend either of these platforms to anybody. I think that they are well worth the money that they are asking for them. I know that's in the eye of the beholder, and it depends on how frequently you use it and how sensitive you are to your own budget, but it's the same as asking somebody, is Netflix worth it? If you watch it twice a month, maybe it's not worth got to be close to $25 a month at this point. If you watch it 4 hours a day, you're going to say, that's a no-brainer. Of course I get my money's worth out of it. So a lot of that's going to be very subjective, but if you're going to spend time training anywhere, like 6 hours or more, on your bike training. Having both of these together, I think you're going to get more than your money's worth out of it. You're going to get the value of the superlative training experience from TrainerRoad, and you're going to have that optionality for those free rides to do it in group ride mode. You'll have something nice to look at. You can test your mettle in races against other folks in Zwift racing. It opens up so many opportunities to run both of these platforms at the same time. I can't tell you how many times people in my comments have asked me to recommend a plan. I have the hardest time recommending a plan to an athlete that I don't know. They might be able to give me some information and I might be able to point them in a general direction, but I have a really easy time recommending TrainerRoad. It's really easy for me to recommend a platform that's going to make the right plan for them. And it's going to adjust as it goes and make sure it's serving up the right workouts at the right time. So do I think that this particular integration is earth-shattering? No. Do I think it's going to add a ton of subscribers to one or the other based on this new integration? Also, no. I think there's going to be some at the fringes. And if you are kind of curious about one or the other, I would absolutely recommend at least getting a trial of one of these two platforms and seeing how you can work it out in your own system. But I think it's a step in the right direction. Is it what people were hoping for? Probably not. And that's okay. I'd love to see these two programs to continue to push the bounds of what they're capable of, to continue to evolve. I think they both have been for the past several years, especially really ramping up the feature set implementation and providing more value to its users. A decade plus on, and I still find a reason to get on both of these platforms damn near every day. So let me know what you guys think of the new integration. If you have any questions, I know I have folks watching this channel who are not super tech savvy. So if you have any technical questions or having trouble getting these two things set up, let me know in the comments. I'll do the best I can to help you. I'm also going to leave some articles down below. I'll leave the TrainerRoad article, Zwift Insider article. I think I just saw that Shane Miller has a video posted. I think DC Rainmaker. I'm going to list all that stuff down below so you guys can get different pieces and perspectives, and there might be things that I left out, so that you can kind of navigate your way through this new integration here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Engagement thingies, buttons, like, subscribe, boogers, all of the things. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.